Good evening. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Monday evening here, March the 17th. Got my green still on. Just got back. Went with a friend out to St. Patty's dinner, someplace we could get corned beef and cabbage. I actually got what two sausages. What do they call them? Bangers and mash, right? I just got the bangers without the mash. But anyway, and an Irish coffee. So I hope everybody's had a lovely St. Patrick's Day. So this is episode 12, and I thought, oh, all right, let me highlight the next CPB that I want to talk about. And that is, and I hope I can get this, it is called... do better when I do it this way. All right. So we've got The Jolly Postman and Other People's Letters. This is by Janet and Allan Ahlberg. And this is actually a classic that was actually published in Great Britain in, I think it was 1986. Janet and Allan Ahlberg. Allan is the writer, was the writer, and Janet was his wife, and she did the illustrations, but she passed, sadly. They did several books where she illustrated, and he wrote a lot of books, and I guess I need to see, he may not be alive anymore, but she actually passed in 1980, let's see. She actually passed in 1996 from cancer, sadly. But let me just talk about this. This is a book that even with I guess it's more of a classic. It is fun. So it is this idea of letters. You've got the Jolly Postman who goes on his route on a bicycle. And he's carrying mail, and so he's got actually 6 pieces of mail throughout this book. And so these letters are to different, like, fairy tale characters, like the fairy, or ones from, like, childhood books. So the very first one, once upon a bicycle, so they say, a jolly postman came one day from over the hills and far away. Love that rhyme going on. With a letter for the 3 bears. And so this would be like Goldilocks and the 3 bears. So we have the actual first letter, Mr. and Mrs. Bear, and you can see the envelope here. 3 Bears Cottage, the woods, right? With even the stamp up here. I love that. And the location, Banbury Cross, 20th of May, 1986. And I don't know if that's 81 pence or... But I love all these little details. So when you turn the book, here's what happens, or when you should say when you turn the page, it's the back of the envelope. So you open it up. I'm going to pull it out here. You actually take the letter out of the envelope and you open it up. It's a piece of mail. And just so you can see here, right? So it is, and maybe I should do it. Let's see. Let's see if we can get this right. Okay. So I'll read that. It's a little card. And it says, Dear Mr. and Mrs. Bear and Baby Bear, I'm very sorry. Sorry is spelled S-O-R-Y. Indeed, that I came, the E is dropped, into your house and ate baby bear's porridge. Porridge, by the way, is spelled P-O-R-I-J. Mommy says I am a bad girl. I hardly eat any porridge when she cooks it. She says Daddy says he will mend the little chair. Remember the little chair that she broke? Love from Goldilocks. P.S. Baby Bear can come to my party if he likes. There will be 3 kinds of jelly and magician. And, I'm sorry, 3 kinds of jelly and a magician. And she spelled magician, M-A-G-M-A-J-I-S-H-U-N, right? So, precious little letter. It looks like it was written in crayon, and it looks like Goldilocks, a child, wrote it. And so, we'll put it back into the envelope. So if you go through, you've got 6 of these, right? So the next one is, it says, so the bears read the letter, except Baby Bear. The postman drank his tea. He drinks tea in some fashion or form at all of his steps. And what happened next, we'll very soon see. Off went the postman, toodaloo, in his uniform of postal blue, to a gingerbread cottage and garage too, with the letter for the wicked witch. So let me show you what it says. Occupant, gingerbread, bungalow, the woods. We've got down here, open now, don't delay. This could be your lucky day. And they got the little owl, free witch watch, a witch watch, worth every order. Right? So even here, a member of the Magic Trader Circle. So you open this one up on the back. And by the way, you got the little stamp here, the little owl again. Let me put it this way. If undelivered, return to Hobgoblin Supplies Limited, Warlock Mountain, Department 46A. So we take this one out. And this is not really so much a letter. It's mail, though. And if we open it up, okay, it's Hobgoblin Supplies Limited. Everything for the modern witch delivered to your door or den. Covens provided for. And so you've got everything, little different parts. These are just a few examples from our enchanting stock. So it's advertisement. It's an advertisement that's been sent, a flyer, if you will, to the Wicked Witch. For further details, call 1-800-555-TOAD. No bad spells, please. So you've got everything from deadly lampshades, nice and gloomy up here, to Halloween boot, available in sizes 4 to 14. Choice of 5 lovely colors: midnight black, coal black, jet black, crow black, bat black, right? For the wizard in your life, matching tie and sock set. So all kinds of things. Sky high goggles, fits all sizes, and just so much. Looking for a new newt, bonus newt, the bonus newt, the bigger newt, same low price, special offer, buy 4, get 1 free, right? So there's all these cool little things here for this flyer, this advertisement. And so so this is the second piece of mail, and it goes on. We've got one to the Giant, or Mr. V Big Mile High House. And that one is actually more of a postcard that actually came from Jack in the Beanstalk, Jack and his mother. And we go on, we've got one, Her Royal Highness Cinderella the Palace. Look at the font on this one. Even the font, whether it's handwriting, typed, some kind of script, Half Kingdom Road. And this is one this is kind of interesting one. This one, Dear Princess, and this is the managing director from Peter Piper Press, talking about that, congratulating her on her recent marriage and saying, we've got a copy of your book. And so here we go. I just talked about a few vlogs ago about embedded text, right? I talked about the William Joyce book, Billy's Booger, a memoir, sort of, and what embedded text or frame story is. So here's an example of embedded text. So you've got the letter, and then within the letter, or the congratulations note, you've got the story of a fairy tale princess. So it's a very condensed version of the Cinderella story here, right? So they are sending her this for this to be published. So that goes inside the letter, right? And I love how they've got these envelopes here. And so it goes on. We go to the B.B. Wolf Esquire at Grandma's Cottage, urgent. That's an interesting one. This is one that's by an attorney's office, and or barrister, I guess. Meany, Miny, Mo and Company, attorneys at law. And they have written Mr. Wolf to talk about, they're writing on behalf of Miss Riding Hood concerning her grandma, and this harassment that the wolf has been providing needs to cease. Okay, cease and desist. They also mentioned that in a separate matter, we must inform you that Three Little Pigs Limited are now firmly resolved to sue for damages. Your offer of shares in a turnip or apple picking business is declined, and all this huffing and puffing will get you nowhere. Yours sincerely. So I love that, right? We've actually got two, and then we go on. This is such a fantastic book. We've got one to Goldilocks, where we have to say, be careful, do not bend. And that is actually a birthday invitation, right? Goldilocks is turning 8. So I love how we get all the way back to the 3 bears. And this one is being sent to Goldilocks. This invitation. Pat a cake, baker's man, bake me a cake as fast as you can. Carry it on a beautiful plate and light up the candles. Today I'm 8. To Goldilocks with love from Mrs. Bunting and Baby. So I'm sorry, not an invitation, but a birthday card from Mrs. Bunting and Baby to Goldilocks. And there's a party going on when the postman arrives at Goldilocks' home to deliver that card. So he stays, right, and celebrates with them a little bit, and then he goes home, and of course, again, for tea. So, how am I going to use this? I love this. There's so many things. Talk about interactive. For one thing, it's a great model. Let's talk about for CPBs that my students are doing. I love the interactivity. I love the text within text, right? We've got the frame again of different text. I love all the illusions in here. So I'm sitting here thinking about there's so many ways that kids could use this as a mentor text. My kids, my seniors, in the books that they're writing. Letters. So it just opens up a whole thing of possibilities. And I love the idea that there's a lot of complexity in this, in that you are taking, I guess this is kind of like a pastiche, which is, it's all these segments from different stories. If you've ever seen Shrek, any of the Shrek movies, where there's allusions to all the different things, like Star Wars, all these different stories and movies and films and things like, and the characters, that's a pastiche. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. So I think this qualifies as a pastiche because it's not just one story that it's alluding to. It's all these different fairy tales, different characters from children's literature that are in here. So I think it's a great mentor text and can open up all kinds of possibilities. So how am I using it? Well, number one, let me tie it to the literature. It will reinforce embedded narrative, okay? But we just started reading in my third bell. We just started Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein today. So those of you familiar with that know that not only is that a frame story, embedded narrative, but it opens up with 4 letters that Walton is writing his sister. So Walton is this character that is recalling his childhood. He lost his parents. And he grew up and he loved poetry and verse, but he was also drawn to science and exploration. And so he gets up to adulthood and he decides to go explore. He gets on a ship and he goes. And so at different points on this voyage, this trip, he writes his sister back home. And so it's a series of 4 letters. And what's really cool in those letters is that you've got a preview of some of the very issues that show up in Victor Frankenstein's story. And of course, in case you haven't read Frankenstein, give yourself a gift, do yourself a favor and read it. I won't spoil it, but let's say that just like the traditional frame stories, that in the end, Walton's story, you understand how that's the frame for Victor Frankenstein's story, the story within the frame. And so, I love the idea of these letters because letter writing is kind of becoming a lost art. I will say that I am not really good. I've never been good in a timely way at getting cards out to people, whether it's a thank you card, a birthday card, any kind of card. It's always something I've tried to work on at different points, but it still has a lot of room to improve. In fact, I guess it's been about 10 years ago, I went over and got cards printed up with my monogram, my initials, and thought maybe if I keep them short and it's nice stationery, personalized, I can get them out faster. And I did do that for a while. I probably need to get more printed up and get better about that, because I love buying cards, but then I just don't always follow through, sit down and write the hand lettered note. But there is something special about getting a handwritten letter or note. There's something super special about that. And I don't know, some would say that our U.S. Postal Service is outdated, with communications now, with email and texting and cell phones, but there's still something to be said for the letter, particularly the handwritten letter. So I'll talk to kids, even on how to address an envelope. We kind of, some people might laugh and think that's ridiculous, but this is not a type of communication that a lot of my students have seen and used and know the letter. So even how to address an envelope, I won't say every semester, but I usually do, particularly in the spring, try to teach students how to address an envelope properly, especially with the season coming up where they get graduation gifts, they want to send thank yous, that kind of thing, so that they know how to do that. I never will forget this was probably it's maybe been my third year of teaching, and I had a student, and his mom told me that he wrote a letter to, when he was in, I think he was in elementary. He wrote a story, upper elementary. He wrote a letter to a little girl that was in his class that he was kind of in love with, just thought she was the best. So he wrote a letter and he took it. He lived not very far. He was within walking distance of the post offices in this real rural little area, not even big enough to be called a township. And he put her name on it, but that's all he put on it. He went to the post office and he actually put it in the mail, not realizing that there was a proper way that you had to address the envelope and you had to put a stamp on it. He had somehow missed that part. And of course, because everybody knew everybody, the postman got the letter back to his mom. So I never will forget that. It kind of impressed on me, okay, we can't assume. This was back before we were texting and using email and stuff, but let's not assume, and teach students how to, address an envelope. So there's that. I love that idea that there's, sending it through the mail. One thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be exchanging at least one time a round of letters with our first graders, kind of as pen pals, to give them a chance to practice on their literacy, to give my students a chance to practice back as well, and keep that connection going that they started forming when they got to visit them in person. The other thing I think is I'm going to introduce and show this concept of the open letter. So I've been kind of thinking about this. I really want to hit on this idea, particularly in my AP Lang class, kind of examine this issue of protests up against like what we would call the rule of law, okay? The rule of law in protest and freedom of speech, right to speak, and how those things kind of grid out in terms of the complexity of them, and so I've been thinking about, the open letter is a letter, by definition, is one that is addressed to a specific, usually it's a specific person, a specific group, but that's not really the audience. The audience is much bigger than that. And I'll give an example in just a minute. And so while you're addressing it and to a specific thing, we're recognizing that the audience implied is much bigger. So it's not unusual for open letters to be published, let's say, in a newspaper or online. And they are often used as a form of protest. And I guess I'm trying to think if they could be classified as a little bit satirical. I guess it could be satire, but it's not just automatic satire. But it is often, I guess not all the time, but it's very often, it's very common for it to be used as a form of protest. And so the one that I was looking at and thinking about bringing in and having my AP language, because they look at a lot of nonfiction specifically, having them analyzed rhetorically, was the open letter that to Jimmy Carter that Margaret Rankle wrote to him on his birthday. And I think that it was it was on his 100th birthday, and I think that was in November 2024. I'd have to go back and double check, because I'm trying to think when he passed. I know he just passed in the past 3 months. Again, dates, I'm not always real good, especially this time of day. But she wrote this. I believe he was still alive when she wrote this, so it was in the newspaper. And anyway, it was interesting because it's an open letter. So yes, it's, quote, to him, but it's really not. It's for other people, and an argument for the kind of life that he led, particularly post-presidency. She does go into some of the things. She was 18 years old when he finished up his presidency, and so she talked about the impact that he had and what he stood for, his policies had on her as an 18-year-old, particularly as inspiration. But also, I think even the majority of it is more concentrating on his life, the life that he and Rosalind carved out post-presidency, and the difference that they made. And as most people know, like for Habitat for Humanity, continuing to teach the Sunday school in his church, his Sunday school class. And just, I mean, I think it's no matter what political party you align with, I don't know anybody that would not agree that there's, of course, it's debatable about whether he was effective as a president, but I don't know anybody that would argue that he was not one of the most inspiring men in terms of what he did after his presidency. So this open letter really lays this out, and it is kind of a protest against those that would argue he was ineffective. That's, I think, what she's kind of protesting. There's some other things in there that she's protesting as well, but it's an open letter. So I love the idea of playing with this idea of audience, okay? There's the explicit audience, but there's the implied audience as well. So one of the things that, another way to connect it back with what we are doing in class is to talk about, we have been talking about audiences in our children's picture books. So I gave them like 15, 16 different stakeholders last week one day, and they had to divide up, had to do like circles within circles, like a target, and talk about primary audience, secondary, and tertiary. And so what I wanted them to understand is, yes, the primary audience is that first grade student, that first grader specifically, but there are other audiences that come out, and have them kind of classify and decide, would this be secondary and tertiary? So even though they're trying to keep primary audience in mind, they need to be aware that there are other people that could be in that audience. And not that you can please everybody all of the time. We know about that. That doesn't work out, but you do need to be aware. So for example, it could be like the parents of that first grader will be part of that audience, the teachers, and so on, and understanding how that could impact the rhetorical decisions that they're making. So I love that idea that, of audience, and with an open letter, and it's not, let's think about who is really the audience, and have them do audience analysis. And so I think that's a lot of fun, and I love a lot of little touches. There's so many little details, even in the addresses of these, and how these all work together. So many different allusions to different stories. One of the consistent things going through is you've got the rhyme going on, not in the actual letters themselves or whatever has been mailed, but in the narrative that is connecting each letter, the journey of this little postman. You've got of course, the rhyme going on. You've got the bicycling, and you've also got, that's a constant thread, that pulls it all together, the cohesiveness of it. You've got that he has tea in some way at each of these steps, which is kind of fun with that. So this is a fabulous, I'm really, really excited to show this. and to share all these different things about this particular book. This particular book doesn't have end pages. Well, I guess it does. It's just a very, very simple yellow, one color. So there's no design or anything like that on it. And I was trying to see if there was a book dedication. No, there's not. Look at the title page, though. It's even got that little tea set, right? So the idea of even thinking about letters, we often associate tea and letter writing, letter reading, the different time period. They bring comfort. So we'll talk about letters. It's a great thing to have students analyze. One of the things that the kids will be doing with the Frankenstein letters is they'll be in small groups, and they'll be doing a soapstone, where they look at the subject, the occasion, the audience, the purpose, and how that varies. So in Walton's letters, for example, he's writing all these letters to his sister. That is the explicit audience. But then there's also kind of the implied, because he doesn't know if these letters will actually get back to him. So it's interesting, even how you see the purpose from the first letter, because this is over a series of time, and how it shifts, and really kind of thinking about that as well. So they'll be doing an analysis. What did I say? Subject, audience, subject, occasion, audience, purpose, and style, and tone, right? So each group will present one of those and do an analysis of that. So we're just kind of going to go into all things letters. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited about trying this children's picture book in with that. Oh, I was going to say one thing. One of the cool things, and I just had to share this because I just learned this morning, actually. A friend of mine, who's a professor at ECU, posted something on his Facebook page about this. On the one where it's the flyer for the witches, or the witch. Let me see if I can get back to that. One of the things that is being advertised are nightshades. And the reason I point that out is I was just looking up nightshades and what exactly. I knew that there were certain kinds of flowers, but where did the where did the name come from? So nightshades are plants. The nightshade family are plants that they like the sun, they like the shade more, possibly, or they've been used at some point, like in folklore, different medicinal purposes or spells, that kind of thing. Or they really like to blossom more at night. So the nightshades here, nice and gloomy. But what the little interesting factoid, the reason I was looking it up is something that a friend was sharing, that bees, and there's a documentary I want to watch in Attenborough. He shared it with me. Bees typically, when they're in their happy place and they're pollinating, buzzing on just regular flowers, they are actually in the key of C, unless they are working on nightshades. If they're pollinating nightshades, they modulate to the key of D. Which, when we're thinking about, buzzing in the key of C, or the buzzing in the key of D, it's really has to do with their wings. And the purpose of going to D is it requires, I guess, a little bit more to get the pollen to slough off of these nightshades. So they modulate, which means, really, the analogy here, the lesson is that even in nature, we have to tailor our communication with our audience in order to be effective. And letters are such a great way to do that, to personalize and to tailor the communication for that specific audience. So anyway, I wanted to share that because I thought that was a cool little tie-in. When I saw nightshades, I was like, oh, I just looked that up. So anyway, maybe you'll have some time in the next coming week or so to write a letter, okay? I encourage you to send out a piece of mail. Write a letter and send out a piece of mail. I've got another children's picture book. It's at school, so I can't show you, but it's set up as a series of corresponding letters. It's called Dear Mr. Blueberry, and it's a little girl who looks out her window one night and thinks that she sees a blue whale in her little kiddie pool. So she writes this scientist, dear Mr. Blueberry, and I'm trying to remember how she finds out about him, but she wants to investigate and tells him, I think I've seen a blue whale. So the back and forth, he starts saying, well, no, it's probably not a blue whale because here's the size of the typical blue whale. And so he couldn't stay in your, a pool the size of your kiddie pool. And she's like, oh no, blah, 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 blah. So it's back and forth where she gives him more evidence and data, and he's trying to get her to look at it logically. So it's a great little piece. I love looking at that. I'll have to feature that one in another video because I've done some really cool things with that one as well for several years. Before we started doing the children's picture book. But anyway, looking at letters, all things letters, I will say one other thing. You could use this to tie in with letters, like even historical letters. I got to spend, I guess maybe this was the summer of 2015. Has it been 10 years now? I got to spend a long weekend. No, it was actually for the whole week. It was in the summer, so I think it was 5 days in outside of Washington, D.C. at the Mount Vernon, George Washington's home. And it was with teachers. It was a fabulous week, man. They treated us like royalty. Each teacher got their own little, kind of like a bungalow. They have all these bungalows on the property there. And then we ate in the tavern there on the property every night. And I'm talking like 5-course meals. We were treated so incredibly well. But what was really cool is we got to go into the archives and see things, including the letters, a lot of the letters that George Washington wrote Martha back and forth. And so I've thought about even pulling a couple of those letters out too and having kids analyze those. I think that would be fun. So, anyway, just imagining all that could be done with letter writing and with mail. And you could even bring in argument and look at the cost of mail. There's some of the arguments now, with the cost of stamps and who they commemorate. There are arguments there to be explored. The cost of whether the postal service is the best way. Is it cost effective? There are arguments that you could do if you're looking at debate and argument and things that are around the idea of mail and post office. Is the letter still relevant? Is there a difference between a typed letter, an emailed or texted letter, and a handwritten letter? I think that would be one to get kids to explore as well. And even what are the differences with those different mediums? So I'm looking forward to playing with this and getting kids, but I will share this very soon just in the context of the letters, Walton's letters in Frankenstein. So anyway, I hope you have had a fantastic St. Patrick's Day, that we survived the scary weather last night. I don't know how many of you, I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning for the next hour where we had tornadic activity here and the winds, and did a lot of praying. God, please keep me safe. It was scary. So I'm tired. I'm going to be going to bed soon, but I hope for calmer weather, sweet sleep tonight for you, and that you have a great week. Be blessed. Bye-bye.